Annabelle Andrews, a 13-year-old girl who, like many 13-year-old girls, thinks that nobody understands her, and her mother, a housewife who wishes that her daughter understood a little bit better the sacrifices she makes from day to day, find one morning that they have somehow switched places. Annabelle must now fill her mother's role as dutiful wife and devoted yet unappreciated mother, while Ellen must live in her daughter's world of friends, classes, and extracurriculars. This is the premise of the 1976 Disney film Freaky Friday, starring Barbara Harris, John Astin, and a young Jodie Foster, who has the distinction of being one of Disney's child stars who didn't completely screw up her life. The film was released well after Disney live-action films had peaked, but although it's not nearly up to the standard of some of their other live-action work, it's still considered a Disney classic, and it was at least good enough for them to attempt a remake of it in 2003. What you might not know, however, is that this movie was in fact based on a book, also called Freaky Friday and written by Mary Rodgers, who also wrote the screenplay for the 1976 movie. This affords us with an opportunity to see how well an author will adapt her own work for film. Did Mary Rodgers improve upon her story? Well, let's find out. This is Books vs. Movies review of Freaky Friday. Now you might be wondering why we chose to do this version of the movie rather than the 2003 remake. The main reason for this is that the 2003 remake isn't so much based on the book as it's based on the original movie. So the connection to the book is not nearly as direct as the 1976 version of the movie, and plus I just like the 76 version better. I mean, Jodie Foster beats Lindsay Lohan any day. So let's get started by looking at our main character, Annabelle Andrews. In both versions, Annabelle is your typical disillusioned 13-year-old girl, transitioning between child and adult and wanting to be treated more like the latter than the former. Now, the book has an automatic advantage over the movie. Why? Because the book is actually being narrated by Annabelle Andrews. Therefore, we get more of an insight into her personality and her thoughts. But you get that in the movie too. She does narrate the very beginning of the story, which establishes her character and the other characters nicely. And the movie does give us insight into her thoughts by actually having us listen to her thoughts. The part of Annabelle was played by, and later voiced by, Jodie Foster, who was around 13 years old herself at the time, and so was also going through that transition between child actor and adult actor. Admittedly though, the inner monologue that defines a lot of her character is something that's really done better with text. Wait, really? You're making my argument for me? Just hang on a minute, let me finish. However, the movie has an advantage over the book too, and it's not even an inherent advantage of visual media so much as it's an advantage of the way the story is told. Because the book tells the story entirely from Annabelle's point of view as she's living her mother's life, we don't get the opportunity to see her life and see the things that she typically does on a daily basis. But the movie also follows Ellen as she tries to live her daughter's life. And we see in looking at Annabelle's school day that she's actually pretty involved. She's on the field hockey team, she's in the marching band, and she even water skis. In the book, we really don't get a feel for how busy and involved Annabelle is. Yeah, but then that was kind of the point of the character. Annabelle is a very intelligent girl who is losing any kind of drive. In fact, this is a part of Annabelle's character that the movie just kind of glosses over. The fact that Annabelle doesn't seem interested in excelling is really driven home in the parent-teacher conference scene in the book. But the same scene in the movie doesn't do it nearly as effectively, and we'll talk more about that scene when we talk about story. I'll agree with you there, but here's the thing. Neither Annabelle was doing terribly well in her classes. You're talking academics. But even the book Annabelle was doing very well in gym class. In a way, I think the movie Annabelle was a lot more realistic to a typical middle school student. Classes might fall by the wayside, but for the stuff she really cares about, she's really involved and actually makes an effort. And we really get the sense of franticness that is inherent with school life. But let's look at Annabelle as her mother. In the movie, the character of Annabelle is played by, obviously, two different actors. Annabelle as her mother is played by Barbara Harris. This woman gave a spectacular performance of a 13-year-old girl stuck in a grown woman's body. Some of the scenes with her are just flat out hilarious. One thing I will say about the book Annabelle is that she seemed to have her wits about her a little bit more. She still goofs off every bit as much as she does in the movie, but she seems a little bit more competent. The book Annabelle, while not being a cook by any stretch of the imagination, at least knows how to fry an egg. Whereas the movie Annabelle gives her brother a freaking ladle to eat his cereal with. Seriously, what 13-year-old girl doesn't know where the spoons are? Also, book Annabelle has one breakdown at the very end of the story, whereas movie Annabelle has several throughout the movie. For example, the scene where Mrs. Schmaus was fired. In the book, Annabelle is very cool and in control, which actually adds to some of the humor. Whereas in the movie, Annabelle fires Mrs. Schmaus in a state of uncontrollable anger in the midst of a very chaotic scene, and then immediately takes it back. But I think the Annabelle in the movie reacts much more in the way that a typical 13-year-old girl would react to finding themselves in the often chaotic world of an overworked housewife. And if there's one thing that a Disney film knows how to create, it's chaos. In the end, both characters are good, and I don't really think that one is inherently better than the other. Ultimately, though, I'm going to lean toward the movie Annabelle, and it's for this reason. We actually get to see her. In the book, the story is coming from inside Annabelle's head, so we hear her thoughts, but we don't actually get to see the ridiculousness of a 13-year-old girl being in a grown woman's body. The movie, with Barbara Harris's phenomenal performance, gives us this. It's a little over the top at times, but really, with this kind of story, are you surprised? So now that we've looked at the daughter side of the switch, let's look at the mother side and see— Foul. What? Foul. I called foul. You call— What? We have fouls now? What? Why are you calling foul? We can't have a category for the mother. Why not? She's a central character in the story. Maybe in the movie, but you barely see her in the book. She doesn't come in until the end. Oh, come on, she's still a central character, and but you don't see her. She doesn't get a full narrative like she does in your— All right, okay, look, listen. Bottom line, she's a major player in the story. We can't have a category for the daughter without having a category for the mother, so we have to include her. Okay, fine. We'll look at the mother. Cheer. Like I said, she really doesn't make an appearance in the book, but she is definitely present and a major part of the story. In fact, in the book, the mother is actually the one responsible for the switch, which opens up several interesting questions about her. Questions which are never answered. Well, no, they aren't. But still, it gives her character some mystery. And you have to admire the cleverness of it. The kid wants to be treated more like an adult, so what do? You give her exactly what she thinks she wants, and then see how she deals with it. In the meantime, you do for your daughter what you wish you would do for herself. Trim the hair, clean the nails, get new clothes, all that good stuff. In that way, she's more than just a 50s-style housewife. She's an intelligent 50s-style housewife. And just like the movie Annabelle, you get a glimpse into Ellen's everyday life, even though she's not the one actually living it. But, let's be honest here, there really isn't enough of her in the story to establish her as a character. Take it away, Hatter. Thank you. Mom isn't responsible for the switch in the movie. It just kind of happens arbitrarily, and there's never really an explanation for it. For that reason, the mother is just as trapped as the daughter. This gives the movie a new dimension. Not only are we watching a child trying to survive in an adult's world, but we also get to watch an adult try to survive in a child's world. I mean, be honest, haven't a lot of us wanted to watch our parents try to survive our typical school day? Now, we do get to hear Ellen's story in the book, but like my literary counterpart said, it's all kind of crammed into the last chapter. Plus, Mom in the book has time to prepare herself for being stuck in her daughter's body, as she is the one that made the switch. And so she actually skips school in order to go out and get her daughter's hair done and nails and clothes and all that good stuff. She has difficulty as well, but it mostly has to do with the fact that once again, she's a child in an adult's world, rather than an adult in a child's world. And just like Barbara Harris playing a clueless child, Jodie Foster has to play a clueless adult, and it's just as hilarious. I especially love the scene where she visits her husband at work and finds that he has a young and very attractive new secretary that he somehow forgot to mention. This secretary is deeply intimidated by this 13-year-old girl, and yet she can't figure out why. Oh, Disney. Back when you used to be funny. So since the movie has a lot more time to develop this character and put her in an unfamiliar setting, it has a huge advantage, and it definitely has the better Ellen.